All right, hello. It's time to practice. So you got the essay number one handout. We talked about it. I'm going to show you guys some sample ads today. You're looking at one right there. You guys, if you want, you can look at these sample ads on the Blackboard. I have them all up there. There's a pair I'm going to show you right now. They're both a very famous ad campaign that if you're not aware of, I'd be surprised. It was a pretty famous and well known and well seen ad campaign for milk. And it's the Got Milk campaign, which ran for a lot of years. They actually stopped doing them a few years back, but they were in every magazine, it seemed like. And there was always the same sort of gimmick that they would use for the print ads for Got Milk, which is they'd get some kind of famous person, a celebrity, an athlete, a musician, a model, somebody that was well recognized both in terms of their face and just their celebrity status. They'd always be holding milk, and of course, they'd always have the famous milk mustache, as you can see on this particular human being. The milk mustache was always there on all of them. It was actually a pretty clever technique that they came up with because remember, a print ad is just a photo, and there's only so much that they can do in terms of showing you what's going on because there's no video, there's no sound. And so what they would always do is have the celebrity with the milk mustache, which is the implication that they just took a drink of milk, right? Show them drinking the product. The only other way to show that in a photo would be to have them actually drinking the milk, right? But then the glass of milk would likely be in front of their face, and then you'd be blocking a big part of what they spent a lot of money on. So they came up with this very clever milk mustache technique that they used on all the celebrities. And again, it was just to show you that they had just had a refreshing cold glass of milk, just like they want you to have. I'm going to show you two Got Milk ads right now just to kind of practice, and I'd like to do it in the order that we talked about, which is, again, the visual first, followed up by the word. So let's start with just the visual, and I don't know if you recognize this person or not. If you do, you know that he is a professional wrestler mainly, but also an actor and does some other stuff. It's a Stone Cold Steve Austin, who kind of had his heyday in the 1990s for the most part, and I believe this is actually an ad from the 90s. Even if you don't recognize who this person is, you can tell that you are staring at a specimen here. This guy is a very large, muscular human being, and he is showing off the goods, both the milk and his own physique, right? So that's the first thing that you're likely to see. And again, this is definitely a celebrity, and this ad would have run when this guy was a very recognizable face for sure. But let's talk about what else we see. It's not just the celebrity thing, it's also how they photograph him and what they show here. One of the things that's very obviously emphasized about this is his physique, right? And that, of course, is emphasized by a few things. One is, of course, he's not wearing a shirt, right? Of course, then that would be showing off his very muscular attributes that he's got there. They could have put him in a t-shirt. They could have put him in a jacket. They could have put him in a tuxedo if they wanted to. They could have put him in anything, but they decided to show him like this because, again, they're trying to show off what he looks like. I think another reason for this also is that, again, if you know him as a professional wrestler, this is his work attire, right? This is what this guy, quote unquote, goes to work in. So if you want to make him really recognizable, you're going to show him like this. You notice he also has those black wristbands on him, right? Which is what a wrestler would wear. So they put him in a recognizable, I would say recognizable clothes, but lack of clothes, I guess, in his case, right? So that aspect is there too. But yeah, I mean, they're really showing even how he's standing and flexing. You notice that he's facing full frontally to the camera, right? So you can see like how wide his chest is, and they're really showing off what he's got there. Notice he's got not just one glass of milk, but two. And the glasses of milk even look kind of tiny. I don't know if his hands are that big that a glass of milk looks that small, or maybe they even gave him smaller glasses than you might normally have just to kind of make him look even larger. That could be a little trick of photography there. But yeah, he's so into milk, he's got two glasses of milk, not just one, right? This guy really likes this milk. Of course, we've got the milk mustache, which in it, again, I said is a trick to emphasize and imply that he just drank the milk. But of course, in a photo shoot, they're going to be taking photos for, an hour or more, different angles, different lighting, different lenses, different cameras, different all kinds of stuff. And actually making him drink milk in between every shot is not feasible. And actually putting milk on him also is not very feasible either, right? Because milk would eventually sort of drip off and it's not a very thick substance. So I can almost guarantee that anytime you've seen a Got Milk ad, that what is on their upper lip is definitely not actually cow's milk. It's going to be some kind of makeup or paint or something like that. That, of course, would make it much more visible for both the reader and the camera to pick up on, right? But also, I don't know, his face, right? I mean, I think we talked about eye contact being a big part of models and ads, especially celebrities in this case. If he's looking right at you, it's going to make you stop when you're flipping through the magazine. So we definitely have the eye contact here. He's looking right through you, and that even that expression that he's got in his face here, very stern, kind of angry, he's staring a hole right through you, almost like daring you to drink milk, which again goes along with his tough guy wrestler persona as well, right? So also that facial expression, he's got his brow furrowed, looking a little angry. Um, how about what's behind him? What is behind him? Not much, right? It's kind of like a grayish green sort of background. There's nothing behind him other than just that flat color. And that's what most Got Milk ads actually look like. I have seen a few where there's like a background, like someone's in a kitchen or something like that. But I would say like 95% of the Got Milk ads that got made, and they made like hundreds of these, um, just a plain background. And again, as we talked about before, sometimes ads will do that so that you're not distracted by anything. They want you to see what they're paying money for, which is this guy's face, his celebrity status. They could have put him in a wrestling ring. They could have put him at the gym. They could have put him in his kitchen at home. They could have put him on the moon if they wanted to, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted you to see this guy and specifically, who he is, so that when you're flipping through that magazine, 3 to 5 seconds, right, you're not distracted by anything else. You might find an ad that has the same kind of thing, and even though there isn't anything quote unquote behind this picture of this guy, it's still a trick because they've decided that they don't want to distract you with anything else, right? I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things you can get into with something like this, but I mean, you get down to the little things that you see and the stuff that they're showing you visually to grab you, right? That's the first attraction that you're going to have flipping through the magazine. And then is punch number two, which is the words. This one starts off with a little phrase up here. And, Got Milk ads are always trying to be clever. You're not going to like laugh out loud or anything. They're not like that funny, but there's stuff that they've got here that they can kind of mess with, right? Um, so here we have, it better be ice cold for Stone Cold, right? Which is his nickname, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then down here, I know it's a little small, but it says this: milk has nutrients active bodies need and protein for butt whooping muscles. So make sure it's icy because Stone Cold said so, which is his little catchphrase. And then we get the actual catchphrase, which you've heard a million times, I'm sure. Got milk, which is their main tag, meaning go and get milk, right? Not a lot of words. If you counted them all up, I'd say, I don't know, maybe like a total of like 25 words, maybe, in this entire ad. Not a lot, right? But enough to get the point across. Listen to what they're emphasizing about this product, milk, right? What do we have? We have nutrients. Okay, cool. For active bodies. Protein for what? Butt whooping muscles. Not just muscles, the butt whooping kind, right? So make sure it's icy cold. Um, Obviously they're emphasizing then the health aspects of it, but also they're doing an if X then Y. I'm going to draw it right across them. Here we go. Whoa, zoom on accident there. If X, Y, right? Because that's what they got. I mean, that's what they're emphasizing here. They're clearly implying that to look like this person, like that, to have muscles like these, all he had to do is drink milk, right? And you and I, of course, both know that that's not the case. And they're not actually saying that's what he did to get look like this, right? But the implication is there: drink milk, and you'll get butt whooping muscles. It's right there. Now, obviously, I mean, does he drink milk to help with that to look like that? Maybe, probably. I don't know. Who knows? But they're saying is it's like that's all you have to do. That's the if X then Y effect here, right? With this particular ad. And that's not true. I mean, you want to look like this, yeah, you can drink milk, but you're also going to have to spend about 3-4 hours in the gym every day, right? It's going to have to be a lifestyle to get a physique like this. Um, in this case, then the demographic most likely going to be men, right? It's not to say that there aren't women who sculpt with weightlifting and stuff like that, but that tends to be stereotypically more something that men are interested and concerned with, and I think that's what they're also going for here. And obviously, this is somebody, professional wrestling tends to be watched more by men than women. They're more likely to know who this is. They're trying to sell milk to a male audience here, right? That seems to be the case. That's this one. I'll flip back to it in a minute because I do want to compare and contrast these, but let's look at the second ad, the Got Milk ad that I have for you. Here's ad number 2. Different person. Do you know this person? Do you recognize this person? You probably, if you have lived in the New England area, you know her husband pretty well. This is Mrs. Tom Brady. This is Giselle Bundchen. I don't know how you say her last name. Supermodel, right? Again, even if you don't know who this is someone who looks attractive, is looking at you through the screen. And I guess in this case, the screen, but actually the magazine, right? Um, yeah, this is them once again using a celebrity as they do in all these ads to attract you in some way. But compare this. I'll flip back over. Here's Stone Cold. She's kind of small now compared to her, right? A lot of differences, a lot of similarities. Obviously, both have the milk mustache. Here's hers. She's holding a glass of milk just like he is. But now, compare again visually what you see here versus what Stone Cold is doing, right? She's turned to the side, right? Which is emphasizing a lot of different aspects about her. And in fact, if you kind of like measure, the width right here of her midsection here and compare it to the size of, it's about the same size as his bicep basically right here, right? They're really emphasizing how skinny and small this person is, and her standing sideways like that really emphasizes that. Imagine if she was standing like this. Imagine if Stone Cold was standing like this, right? It would ruin the effect. This, they want to show him large and wide and muscular. Here, they want to show her tiny. And so they're saying in this case, there's an if X then Y for women, right? Milk will make you this size. Guys will get huge. Women will get small. Even though it's the same product, right? But also, there not that there can't be a sexual aspect to this too, because if obviously, if you're someone who's attracted to men or people like him, then he certainly might be somebody that would catch your eye. Same thing with her, right? If you're attracted to women, then this might be attractive to you also. But they're really emphasizing it with how they show her, right? Take a look. I know this was just an accident, but just a breeze just happened to flow through the air when they took the shot, and it blew her hair seductively backwards. What an accident! What a coincidence, right? There's no way. Look at the face that she's making here, right? There's this very seductive look. Compare that again to Stone Cold, who looks like he's going to kick your ass if you don't drink milk. She's like kind of like beckoning with her eyes, right? This kind of like side gaze, this look that she's giving you. And I'm sure it's an accident that her shirt is unbuttoned halfway down here and that her midriff is showing and that she's holding the milk by her crotch and her other hand is on her backside. These are all coincidences, I'm sure. And of course they're not, right? This is they're sexualizing milk in its own way. To get you to pay attention, right? And like I said, that's one of the oldest ways to get someone to stop in a magazine ad. That's 100% what they're doing here, right? Background, almost the same. It could even be the same backdrop, that kind of greenish gray color that doesn't exist anything. And again, same reason, right? Just the distraction aspects. They are trying to keep you focused on what they spent their money on, which is the famous person in question here. But listen to what now they're saying about milk. Remember, Stone Cold's ad was all about butt whooping muscles, active bodies, nutrients, and protein. Listen to this one: model behavior. Want strong bones? Your bones grow until about age 35, and the calcium in milk helps. After that, it helps keep them strong, which means milk is always in fashion. Got milk. Anything about butt whooping muscles this time? Protein, active bodies? It's totally gone. It's not missing at all anymore. And why? I mean, that's a good question, right? And I think it just goes back to the demographic aspect. I think this ad is most definitely reaching out to more of a female audience. And again, it's not to say that there aren't women who have active bodies and want protein and stuff like that, but that's not what they're emphasizing. This time they're emphasizing things like keeping your bones strong after age 35. I don't know, concerns about osteoporosis, who knows, right? But it's like they're selling, it's almost as if they're selling two different products, and yet what are they selling in both of these? It's the same thing, right? It's not like if you go to the grocery store, there's men's milk and women's milk. It's just milk, right? Same stuff, that stuff that comes out of a cow, right? There's no difference in what they're selling, and yet they're selling them totally different ways to different people. And this is a good example of how the demographic thing works that I was talking about before, between, like, in this case, gender, men and women, right? We want to sell milk to women, let's emphasize this. We want to sell milk to men, let's emphasize that, even though they're going to be drinking the same product, right? So I think this is an interesting pair of ads, and a lot of Got Milk ads, again, use the same kind of tricks and techniques and stuff like that these are employing, and you could easily find, you know, ads like this that are they're doing the same kind of stuff, all right? Okay, that's the got milk ads. Let's move on to a different set, a different campaign, not milk based. All right, here we go. Let's switch. Okay, here's another set. These are four more ads, and these are all Toyota ads. They're all from exactly the same campaign, though. If you look at the bottom, they all say the same thing. Get the feeling. Here's the bottom of the second one, third one, and the fourth one. So these are all from the same campaign that Toyota put together. I think these are from, looks at the bottom, looks like it says 2007, I think. So these are, over 10 years old, these ads. Toyota doesn't have this tagline anymore, get the feeling. I think it's like, let's go places or something like that. Companies will change up their slogans, their catchphrases every once in a while, even though they're selling essentially the same products. But so you can tell even just from the design, look at the font, look at this little strip down at the bottom, which I'll talk about in a minute. The tagline's the same, and yet these ads, despite looking similar from a distance, if you look up close, as we're about to, they're all very different. And there's a reason for that, which is that Toyota, being one company, doesn't just sell the Toyota. They sell different types of cars and different type or vehicles, because the last one's a truck. Not all companies will sell the same types of things in the same ways, right? Sports cars, for instance, will be sold differently than a sedan, which will be sold differently than a minivan, which is sold differently than a truck or a Jeep or a hybrid car or whatever, a mini car versus a larger car. SUV versus not, whatever. They know that different types of cars have different demographics. Different types of people will want to buy those. And so these ads are also a good way of looking at how the demographic sort of thing works, because we can see all these different ads at play and the different ways that they're selling them. So let's start with this first one, which is the Celica, which is, as you can tell just from looking at it, is like a sporty kind of car, right? A little small sports car, an affordable one, I guess. Let's do the 1-2 punch again. Visual first, then the words. Don't read the words just yet. Visually, what do you see first? It's got to be the car, right? There's the car right there, front and center. It is bright, screaming bright yellow, right? It's coming off the page, that color. It is so, so loud. And I don't think it's an accident that we see these lines down here in the ground, these double yellow lines that you'd see like on a freeway or a highway or something like that. I don't think it's a coincidence that the car is yellow and these lines are yellow, right? It's creating kind of like a palette of color. These yellow lines, this yellow car, the lines are parallel with the car. It just kind of creates this nice visual effect here. If the car was red or green, it wouldn't work as well, right? Another thing, again, this is a sports car ad, and sports car ads will show flashy colors most of the time. Most sports car ads for, not high-end luxury ones, but, mid-range sports cars will be yellow, red, green, maybe a bright blue or something in their ads. Very rarely black or white or gray or silver like you might see with a luxury car, because sports cars are flashy cars, right? And so of course they're going to want to show flashy colors like this to really pull you in. Other things, sticking to color, not a lot of the colors. I'll talk about this little strip here at the bottom separately. So let's just talk about this first top part here, and we'll talk about that in a minute, even though there's other colors. In the main ad, there's really just this blue. I mean, there's like the black kind of like trees here and the black of the road. But then there's like this kind of dusky blue, right, in the background, which creates kind of like a nice contrast. Although the car, you'll notice, is very kind of expertly framed only against the black trees. So that yellow really pops. It doesn't cross over into that blue at all, but it creates a nice sort of like, tonal shift here, this blue into yellow. It just looks nice, right? There's kind of like an artistic quality that this ad has that, remember, anything they can do to pull you in. Visually, okay, let's go back to the car itself. Notice the car is, first off, at an angle. Do you see this angle right here? So I wouldn't say it's a 45-degree angle, but it's, maybe like a 35-degree angle. The car is shown at a downward slope. It is going down this way, right? It's headed this direction, and just like a roller coaster at the top of a hill, it is implying that this car is going fast, right? And another thing, very obviously, I'm sure you've already noticed, is this blur effect up here in the trees, which again creates the feeling that this car is going by very fast. And remember, now what they're trying to do is combat the drawback that a print ad has, which is that, again, if this is a TV ad, they can show this car sprinting through the streets and the trees, but they can't pull that off in a photograph, so they have to imply that. My guess is that this is just a totally still car, and they just added a blur effect in Photoshop or some kind of editing software to get that effect, because the only other way to do this really would have been to lie on the ground and wait for this car to run around a track every 5 minutes and try to get a photograph of it driving past really quickly. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this car is parked, and I think that they just added this effect later because, again, why not? It's a lot easier to make an ad like this happen, right? So the fact that it's going in this downward fashion, the fact that it's got this blur effect, the fact that, for instance, you look at the back end, you can't even see the entire car. It's cut off. It's almost implying like this photographer could only happen to get this part of the car because it's going by so fast, right? You don't even see the rear wheel of this car, which is kind of unusual for a car ad. Usually you see the entire car if they're showing the outside of it. So this is all emphasizing speed, which again is a major selling point if you're going to be buying a sports car and you want speed. And the words will carry that forward in just a minute. But even little things like the shape of the headlight, I know that's not unique to the ad because it's the car's design. But again, they really emphasize the shape of this. Look at the way that it sort of stretches back like that, almost like it is stretched out from the speed or something like that of the car going so quickly, right? There's that aspect. There is a few things that get used not just in this ad in particular, but a lot of car ads that you might start to notice. Take a look at the windshield here, or all the windows, in fact. You'll see this in a lot of car ads if you haven't noticed this before. Notice how they are tinted, like jet black tinted, like super illegal tinted, like you could never buy a car with windows that black. It's not legal at all for street driving. And yet they show this a lot of times in car ads. In fact, all of the other car ads I'm about to show you have the same thing, where the windows are just black, black, black. I think there is a reason for that, and the reason is, well, they're hiding something, right? They are hiding the fact that, well, okay, there should be a person right here driving the car. Here's the person driving, right? Remember, the idea with a car ad is to get you to want to buy this car. And if they show a person driving this car, it's kind of like, hey, why is that person in my car? Get out of my car, asshole. Get out of it. That's my vehicle, right? If they hide the windows like that, then you can better imagine yourself in there. And it kind of creates that sort of imagination effect where you can be the driver as opposed to being distracted by somebody who is in there. I think also it's hiding the fact that they don't need anybody to be driving this car because, again, I don't think this car is driving at all, right? Here's another thing. Notice the light source in this ad. See the way that the shadows shoot backwards like this? Light sources with cars are almost always from the front. So here's the light shooting down in this direction, as if the car is driving towards the very bright light, almost like a sunlight. Now, in the real, the quote-unquote world of this ad, it doesn't actually make sense that there's such a bright light in front of this car, because if you look at the sky, that's kind of like a sky that's either like really early morning or really late in the evening, when the sun is either just coming up or just going down. And having this very bright light source doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're not supposed to really question that. But what it does is it kind of creates this effect. Again, if the sunlight or whatever that light is in front of the car, as it usually is, it's implying that the driver is driving towards that light. Right? Which, again, psychologically is a better feeling than driving if the light source is back here and you're driving away from the bright light. Psychologically, it makes you feel like you're driving towards that brightness, a new day, something bright and shiny ahead of you. Again, these are little psychological tricks. It just makes the car more appealing when the light comes from the front like that. Okay. All right. Let's go to the words now. Now, again, you're not going to laugh out loud. They're not meant to be like roll over, funny, but there are some aspects here that they have that are kind of they're just trying to be clever, I guess, with their wordplay. So they're playing on the fairy tale thing right here. It says slow and steady wins the race in fairy tales, kind of like the tortoise and the hare. And here's what it says at the bottom, Celica. In real life, you're going to need a little more juice, like the Celica GTS. Its 180 horsepower VVT-Li engine is perfect for the more goal-oriented driver, and with its new available high-intensity discharge HID headlamps, you'll never lose sight of that finish line. And then we have Get the Feeling in Toyota. So remember, with words, it's important to look at what they're saying, but also what they're not saying. And I think you can kind of put that together in some cases. What are they saying? Right here, they're continuing the story of this being a fast car. Listen to the things that they tell you. Slow and steady wins the race in fairy tales. In real life, you need a car that goes fast. Don't be the tortoise, be the hare, right? Real life means being fast. How are you going to do that? Well, this car has got 180 horsepower. There's a little statistic there in terms of the engine speed. It also has an engine, but not just an engine. You'll notice what it's called there. We have the VVT. That looks like a W, sorry, whatever. VV. What is a W but not two V's right next to each other? Whatever. TEL, and then notice it's a lowercase I. Ooh. And I've had students tell me, I guess this stands for variable valve timing something intelligence. I forget the L, doesn't matter. That actually stands for something. It actually means something, but what that is, it's just like Pantene with their Pro V vitamins. It's just a term, a little buzzword that Toyota came up with. VVTLI. That just sounds fancier than just saying it has an engine. No, 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 no. It doesn't have an engine. It's got a VVTLI engine. Oh. Ooh, do you have a VVTLI engine? You don't? Oh man, you need one of those. That's again these little things that they do. Honda's got the VTEC engine. It's the same kind of thing where they come up with these fancy names for things. It's probably no different than the engine that's in a Honda or a Nissan or a Mazda or a Chevy or a Ford or any other car. I'm sure there's slight differences in design, but an engine's an engine, right? It makes the car go. But this has a special name, and it's even got that lowercase I, which is very, again, very fancy sounding. They do the same thing with the headlights, but they're not headlights, guys. What are they? It's high intensity discharge headlamps. Oh man, doesn't that sound really expensive and fancy and luxurious and impressive? Much more than saying it's got bright lights, right? High intensity discharge. That really gets you. Just little things that they're throwing in there that make you feel like this car has got it, right? This car is really into like what I need. But what do they not say? They don't tell you anything about, for instance, how much space is in the trunk. Does this car even have a trunk? You certainly can't see it, right? It's a two-door car, right? So even if there is a room in the back, who knows? Doesn't tell you about how many kids can fit in the car to take them to soccer practice. Doesn't say anything about stuff like gas mileage either. Doesn't have a price listed, although a lot of car ads do. But they'll also do the starting at trick, which is very similar to up to. They'll show a car and it says starting at $17,999. But then the picture that they'll show you will be like the version with all the bells and whistles that cost like $34,000. And then you look at this picture of a car that would cost you $34,000. It says starting at $17,999. You go, wow, that car's only $18,000. That's a great deal. And then you go down and you realize that's just the bare minimum thing. Some ads will for cars show the price. Some won't. This one doesn't. They just didn't. Yeah, they just didn't. That's all it is. But definitely emphasis on speed, right? This car is fast, and we're going to tell you both visually that it's fast. We're going to tell you in the words that it's fast. We're going to give this little cute little thing about the fairy tales and what it means to be fast in real life. That's what they want you to feel when looking at this car. That's the feeling they want you to get with this one, right? And now we can switch over to that. Let me zero it in a little bit closer to this little strip at the bottom. So all of these Get the Feeling ads have this. I don't know if you can notice, it's actually 4 different pictures. There's this picture, and then there's this one. There's one next to that, and then there's this final 4th one. And all of these little strips, they're almost like little comic strips. They've got 4 pictures. They all say Get the Feeling on the left and the Toyota logo and name on the right. But the pictures behind them change. The next one we're going to look at for the Toyota Matrix has the same 4 on the bottom, so we won't talk about that one again. But the other 2 after that have different ones. I think what these are like a little shorthand for the demographic. It's kind of like a little cheat sheet for talking about who they're trying to sell this car, the Celica, to. And it has to do with like what they think about who that person is. So look what's behind Get the Feeling in this one. It looks like it's a cityscape, pretty big city, busy city, urban environment. Looks like New York or some big city like that, maybe even Boston, who knows. This next picture over, we've got a city skyline in the background with a river, and then we've got this sort of like hipster dude who's kind of, like leaning into the frame with his cool hipster glasses and his red scarf or whatever with his leather jacket. He's like too cool for school, kind of leaning in like, hey, yo, what's up kind of thing. That's cool, whatever. We get this picture here, which looks like somebody like at a club or a concert, dancing, having a good time. I can't tell if it's indoor or outdoor, but you can tell they're having a good time. And then this last one is another trope that's used in a lot of car ads, which is the road that goes forever, but also to nowhere. I know it's kind of hard to tell because it's sort of pixely and stuff like that, but this is basically a road that goes off into the horizon. It never ends. And a lot of car ads will use these because, again, it's a psychological trick to make you feel like when you step into this car It's as if traffic goes away. Rush hour never existed. Stoplights, nope. Stop signs, haven't heard of them. You can just get in that car and drive. Not a cop in sight. You can go forever, right? Any speed you want to, anywhere you want to. Nothing can get in your way. That's what the endless road tells you psychologically. It's a nice little, again, psychological appeal to, this is what this car will let you be able to do. So now that we've seen all these, let's think about the common denominator. Who are these people, right? Who do they expect to buy the Celica? Which people want this feeling, right? Where do they live? They live in the urban environments. They live in a city. They don't go, they're not in the country. They're not in the woods. They're not in, nature. These people live in the concrete jungle kind of thing, right? They're young. They're hip. What do they do on the weekends? They go clubbing, they go dancing, they go to concerts, they enjoy their youth. They go out and they drive that endless road into cities and do cool city things, right? That's who they're selling this car to, or people who want to feel that way, right? Because, well, sports cars are definitely meant to be kind of like a youthful car. It's not always young people who buy them, but it might be people who are trying to sort of feel young and reclaim their youth in some way. And that's definitely what they're trying to suggest here with these little 4 pictures at the bottom. We get you, says Toyota. We know you. You're this kind of person. Buy our car, right? Okay, that's the Celica. Moving on. Here's the Matrix. That's the next one. This one might look kind of bland and straightforward, but in fact, of the 4 I'm about to show you, I am showing you, not about to, this one to me is telling the most of a story between the 4. If you don't believe me, check this out. Ready? Let's do it. 1-2 punch. Visually, first thing, of course, you see the car. There it is. Bright red car, which really pops against this mainly kind of like steel, gray, white, bland background. Yeah, there's a little bit of a blue sky, but most of the colors in this ad, other than the red car and the blue sky, are just bland, gray, boring, right? So that red really jumps out at you. Imagine again if they had picked a gray car or a white car or a black car, it just would fade into that background. So red really works here. Notice how the car is photographed, right? Again, this time as opposed to the Celica, which is at an angle, up close, coming right at you. Looks like it's about to run over you. You don't even see the full car. Now the Matrix is a little further away, but you get to see the whole thing. The full side profile of this car is visible in this ad. And I think that's an important thing. I'll point that out in a minute. Even down to, again, just like little things like the car being spotless and clean. That's also true of the Celica. A lot of times cars will be like completely perfectly, without a scratch, without a dent, without a spot of dirt or a fleck of water. They're perfect, right? And again, I was talking about that with objects trying to appear and look as perfect as they can be. But that's not all there is visually. Yeah, we have the black windows again. Yeah, we have the light coming from the front again. Notice that, again, the shadows shooting behind it, so it's the same stuff. But here's the rest of the story visually that's going on here. Look where this car is. It looks kind of like a road, but I don't think it's a road. I think this is meant to be like a parking garage, like the top of a parking structure or something like that. It's probably the parking structure for this building behind it, right? Notice the building. It looks like it's supposed to be like a very kind of like modern industrial looking building, a business of some kind, probably filled with cubicles and desks and people working their 9-to-5s and stuff like that, right? Notice this arrow on the ground here. Not coincidental, not accidental. Notice that it's pointing the same direction that the car is pointing. Imagine if the arrow was pointing this way, towards the right side of the ad. That would be at odds with the car, which is pointing towards the left side, so they both point the same direction, which again, psychologically just feels nice. So here's the storyline. Oh, here's the other thing to pay attention to. I don't know if you guys can see this, but reflected in the glass, on both sides, but especially on the left side, reflected in the glass windows of this building. Can you see what that is? It's like a hill or a mountain, right, with a blue sky and clouds. It's basically hinting at the fact that like over here in the ad, there is something natural, something nice, something better, maybe. Here's the story of this ad visually. You ready for this? Again, if you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you because the words really back me up here. Here's the story, ready? This is your car. This is your life. This is your shitty job that you have to wake up at 7:30 every morning and brush your teeth and eat your Cheerios, and you have to get in rush hour traffic and drive here, and you show up and you park your car in the parking garage and you lock it and you walk to your cubicle and you work your job and you hate it and you're sitting at the computer, and every day you look out the beautiful windows and what do you see? What's this over here? What's this over there? Mountains, escape, freedom, fun. So ready for this? Rise up and flee your cubicle. Get out of this hellscape, this trap that your life has become. Flee, flip your desk over, run down the stairs, jump in your car, follow the arrow on the ground. What are you going to drive towards? These mountains over here. Escape. Flee your cubicle. Matrix, it was sent here to free you. You need to be freed from the life that you're in. You are currently locked up. We're going to save you. Right? I'm telling you, that's what they're doing here. Isn't this funny? Listen to how. Adrenaline charged performance. And up to, there's an up to, you see that? Up to 53 cubic feet for cargo. The freedom to leave it all behind. The freedom to bring it all with. They're basically saying, quit your job, jump in your car, and escape. Now, how are you going to pay for your car if you quit your job? We'll figure that out part. That part comes later. Don't worry about that. No specific statistics this time, though. No horsepower listed. I guess there's a statistic as far as like the cubic feet, but as far as speed, there's no statistics, right? But we do get something vague, adrenaline charged performance, which isn't a specific thing that can be measured at all. It's just this hint that it's a fun, fast car, but maybe not as fun or as fast as the Celica, which they can point to more statistics with. No mention of the VVT-Li engine this time, because maybe it has one, maybe it doesn't, but that's not the selling point. What's the selling point? Cubic feet storage, which is emphasized, by the way, by how they photograph the car. Here's the back side of the car, which you can see all of. Remember, you can't even see the back side of the Celica because who cares how much cubic feet is in that car? This one you care about. So they're going to show it all right here, straight in the back, right? Freedom to leave it all behind, but the freedom to bring it all with. Anything you want to bring will fit in the back of this car. Well, at least up to, again, up to 53, meaning that you'd have to really, really try to get 53 cubic feet of cargo in that car. You'd have to be a master at Tetris of putting things together and smashing everything in there just right. But it's possible. You could get up to. They seem to be suggesting. Matrix, it was standard for you. I don't think it's a coincidence even that it's called the Matrix, right? Remember, this looks like this ad. Is that 2002 or 2007 at the bottom there? 2002. Okay. Which makes sense because that was right around, I don't know if you guys know those Matrix movies, that's when those movies were coming out. And again, the whole conceit of those movies was, we're all trapped in this, virtual reality of non-reality. And that's, you had to be freed from that. And that's what they're saying here with this car as well, right? Okay. Third ad here. This is a car that is probably one you know very, very well. Very ubiquitous car. I don't think you can drive down the street and not see 20 of these now, but this is when this was a brand new car. This is the Toyota Prius, a very famous car, very well purchased, mainly because of what kind of car it is, which is, of course, a hybrid car, right? This was not the first hybrid car to be sold in America or the world, but it certainly was the one that was sold the best, and Toyota really pushed the heck out of this one and got it out there, and they did a good job. But this is, as you can see here, coming this fall. When this ad was created, this car wasn't even actually officially on the market yet. So this is the introduction to this one. Huge difference between this one and the Matrix and the Celica, and the one after this too, the Toyota Tacoma, the truck one, because this one doesn't actually have a setting exactly. There's definitely something behind it. But if you look closely, there's no setting. It's not in a place. It kind of is in this weird void where you can sort of see this kind of grid pattern behind it. You see that up close? And it kind of gets lighter as it goes towards the edge there. But it's this like weird like blueprint or like computer readout kind of grid pattern that they're using here to sell this car, to put it in this sort of interesting place. So that first off makes the car stand out even much more than the other ones because it's basically the only thing to look at. There's a few other little things, but that's the main attraction here is this car. We have the light source coming from this side again, but this time, look how bright it is. So bright. Look how huge the shadow is thrown behind this car. And again, compare that to even like the Matrix, which just has this sliver of a shadow at the bottom. The Prius has this giant wall-hugging shadow that just launches behind the car, seeming to suggest that in this case, the future is so bright, right? You're driving towards the future. And I think that plays into what kind of car this is. There's a few things that do. Remember, this is a hybrid car. It's a gas-electric kind of hybrid, which was, for when this car came out, a futuristic technology. There weren't a lot of cars that were like that. Almost all cars ran conventionally on gas, which most cars do today anyway. But this is a new technology being introduced, and so they're trying to sell it as a futuristic car. I think the color of the car plays into that as well. Notice that it is not just silver, it's almost like a shiny chrome. Look at the light, it's almost like a reflective surface. And chrome equals futuristic or scientific or space age even. Think of, like, the DeLorean in Back to the Future, or the spaceships that you'd see in like UFO movies that are kind of shiny and metallic, right? There's a futuristic aspect. I don't think I've ever on the street seen a shiny, chromed out Prius. I've seen blue, yellow, green, white, black, every single other color, but I've never seen one this color. Maybe they don't even sell it in that, but for the ad they made it this way, right? Jet black windows like we saw before, but this car is like a future car. It's almost like the shadow almost gives it like a rocket effect, like it's zooming forward like this, right, towards that light, even though it doesn't appear to be moving at all. The background, again, very technical readout, almost like a blueprint and stuff. Up at the top here, there's these little icons. Do you see these? There's this one that looks like a car that's towing something. There's the one that's highlighted and lit up. It's a leaf. We'll come back to that. There's a suitcase icon and a gas pump icon. Have you guys seen these before in a car? These are usually like things that you'd find like in the dashboard when like when you're running out of gas, the gas pump would light up, or when your trunk is open, this might light up. In this case, the icon that's lit up is a leaf, and a leaf obviously being representative of ecology, of nature, of taking care of things. Because again, this is a technology that's supposed to be eco-friendly, and it's kind of playing on the fact that, well, this car has a leaf that lights up. I don't think it actually did, although there are plenty of cars now that actually do. My wife has a Honda Pilot that has an eco mode that has a leaf as part of the logo for that, and that lights up on the dashboard when you press it. But back then, I think they're just kind of joking around. This car is so eco-friendly, it has a leaf that lights up on it, right? Even this down here, there's a start button. This was one of the first cars to have a start button ignition, as opposed to turning your key in the dash there, or in the wheel. There's a button that you press, Prius Start Now, which I know I'm getting into the words now, but the visual icon of this start button is very appealing. You press a start button, which also, again, feels very futuristic for a car, almost like a spaceship instead of a car that you drive around, right? And then we get to the words. So, and again, we'll talk about the strip down here at the bottom. You'll notice probably already that there's 4 different pictures than the last 2 ads. So the first words will be up at the top. Daddy, what's smog? Which is obviously a playing on this joke that this car is so ecologically friendly, environmentally friendly, that even within one generation, your child will not know what the concept of smog is, which is pretty ridiculous. But it's what they're playing into here, right? Let me zoom in because it's kind of small. That's more words for this one because this is a new product, right? This isn't something that they can just assume you know what it is. So here we go, introducing the new Prius with hybrid synergy drive. It delivers all the power of a conventional car while running up to 89% cleaner for smog-forming emissions, which means the Prius will not only take your breath away, it will also give it back. Coming this fall, it has its own special website even. We get that hybrid synergy drive. There's the logo for it even. That's the VVT-Li version that Toyota has for their hybrid cars. That's the name they gave it, hybrid synergy. Synergy meaning things working together, in this case, gas and electric power, right? Listen to what they tell you this time. So they work against some fears that people might have. This car is just as powerful as a conventional car. People might be worried it like runs like a golf cart or something. They say, oh, no, this is just as powerful. We get that hybrid synergy drive, and then we get a statistic. This is such a cherry-picked, perfect little statistic. Here's what it says. All the power of a conventional car while running up to 89% cleaner for smog-forming emissions. 89%. Can we talk about that stat real quick? 89%. Here it is. How does that make you feel, that number, 89%? Do you like that number? Compare that number. Imagine if it said instead running up to 90% cleaner. Now, how do you feel about that? Which one of these two do you trust more? Do you trust 89% or 90% more? Most people would say that 89% somehow sounds better, even though it's technically a smaller number. Somehow 89% sounds more trustworthy and scientific than 90%. 90% is too perfect, right? It's a round number. But 89%, you're like, why would they lie about 89? It's like such a specific number. It's not any more or less a specific number than 90%. It's just in our brains, scientifically, we think, well, 89%, it's just like, again, something costing $4.99 versus $5. $4.99 sounds better because it sounds much less, even though it's just a penny less, right? Well, in this case, it should be higher, right? It should be a number that you'd want to be higher. 90% cleaner is better than 89% cleaner, and yet 89% sounds more trustworthy. I believe 89% much more than I do 90% in this case, right? And that's an interesting little trick there that they're pulling out of there. 89%. And by the way, that's the same ratio basically as 9 out of 10 dentists, right? It's that same sweet spot, that number that sounds really, really good, not too perfect, though. If it sounds too perfect, it's less believable. So they pull it off. Now, they also want you to think that that means it's 89% cleaner than all other cars, and that's, again, statistically impossible. Can you find a car that this is 89% cleaner than for smog-forming emissions? Sure, I'm sure you can find one. But all cars, I doubt it. Maybe the car you drive now, it's only 27% cleaner, right? But 89%, it just sounds so good, and that's such a good stat number to throw in there, right? Little tricks like this, watch for these. Which means the Prius will not only take your breath away, it'll give it back. It'll give you oxygen to breathe, literally, they say, right? Okay, down at the bottom, we got a new set of 4 pictures. Remember there was a city in the first one, now we have a tree and like a nice little valley or something. Instead of the hipster dude at the city, we have somebody outdoors running. Instead of the girl dancing at the club, we have people playing a ball with a ball at the beach or somewhere. And then we have yet another endless road. There's the horizon off into nowhere and the road that just goes forever. But this isn't an urban road. This is more of like an outdoors road, a more natural road, even though it's paved, right? Okay, we'll put these together. Who's this demographic? This is not the same demographic as we saw in the Matrix or the Celica, right? This is a different group of people. These are people that, what do they do on the weekends? They go outside. They go out in nature. They care about nature. They live in nature. They breathe the air. They want to be outside and playing sports and games outside. They don't go dancing and clubbing into restaurants in the city. They go and have a picnic out on the beach or something like that, right? And they too want a road that goes forever, but a different road. Not a road through the city, but a road out to the beach, a road out to a forest or a nice field or something like that, right? People who care about the environment. And again, this is Toyota saying, we know who you are. We get you. Down at the bottom. Notice how small these are, by the way. This is like an eighth of the ad. You could probably fit 8 of these in the entire space of the ad. They're so small down at the bottom. And it's the same for the other two as well, right? It's just this little strip at the bottom. It's just a little hint. They obviously are expecting you to pay attention to this much of the ad, the whole, major ad. But it's this little strip at the bottom, and they say, there's something to see down there. They want you to kind of see it, but not really pay attention exactly. To feel who you are, get that feeling, but not really know that they're saying, hey, we're selling to you, we're working on you. All right, last one. I swear it is the Tacoma, which is a truck. That's different than the cars that we've seen so far. And truck ads always sell differently than car ads do. TV, print ads, no matter what, they're going to sell to a different group because, again, stereotypically, they're thinking like the type of people who buy and drive trucks is different than people who drive, say, sedans or even SUVs. Right? And that's totally emphasized. You can see that right away by the visuals in this one. I talked about the angle that the Celica was at, which is about this small little angle right here. Take a look at the angle that the Tacoma is at. That is basically a full-on 45-degree angle right there. If this is the flat right here, that angle right there, that's halfway to 90 pretty much. This is different than the Celica, which was going, remember, downward. The Tacoma is going upward. Notice the front of the car is going this way, right? And this time now they're not emphasizing speed at all with that angle. They're emphasizing power. They're showing this truck climbing something, right? And so they want to show this truck in action with what it can do. They're showing off its attributes differently. A big difference between this one and the other ones is what's all over the truck. Look at this around the wheel well. Look at this along the side of the door here, over here. What do you see? It's a bunch of mud and dirt, right? These other cars, spotless, 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 dirty. And that is, again, not an accident. Truck ads, Jeep ads also will emphasize how dirty it can get as a selling point. Because, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense. Imagine if this truck was where it is and it was totally clean. It would not be believable, right? So, yeah, they probably sat there. They probably parked it. Again, I don't think this truck is moving. I'm sure it's parked. And they probably walked up to it with a bucket of mud and painted it on strategically in certain spots while keeping other parts clean. Notice this is clean. The windows are clean. They still want it to look new, right? They don't want it to look too beat up, but beat up just enough, dirty just enough to be believable. The car is the truck rather, is at an angle. The wheel is turned, implying that it's moving, it's going somewhere. I think the angle also does a nice job of showing off the inside of the truck bed, so you can see how large how much space that it has, right? Imagine if it was photographed like this, like the Prius, you wouldn't get to see inside of there. They're really emphasizing that. And then we have the setting. There's two interesting things about the setting. One is just where it is. It's this beautiful, gigantic, natural canyon. This is not a road. This is nothing resembling a road. It's not even off-road. It is literally just like a canyon that is seemingly untouched by human species, right? But this truck was able to drive up to and will be able to drive all the way down it, which is implied by these little computer elements that they added in. This is the first one that has very strong computer elements. See these little triangles, these yellow triangles with numbers above them? They go all the way down the bottom of this canyon, all the way out there. Do you get what you're doing with these? What they're doing with these? It plays into this tagline here, how do you score your day? I think what they're doing is sort of selling it like a video game. Drive through this puddle, 200 points. Drive over this rock, 500 points. Squish that squirrel, 600 points basically, all the way down through this canyon. How do you score your day? What do you score your day by, like, what, baking cake or working your stupid cubicle job? You score your day by being nice to your kids? No, no, no. Score your day by driving over stuff. Drive through whatever you want to. You want to go through a puddle, over a rock, nothing can stop you. You get, imaginary points all the way down, right? Yeah, it's basically saying this is like a video game. But this is a good example of an obvious computer trick where you're supposed to see that they have added these in. Those things aren't really there, right? Well, continue on then. How do you score your day? Tacoma with an available 5-passenger double cab, 190 horsepower, V6, four-wheel drive, and a locking rear differential. You'll be game for just about anything. Right? Well, there you go. Can't beat that, right? They're showing off, this time, power. Remember, the Celica had 180 horsepower listed as a statistic. This has 190 horsepower listed as a statistic. But the horsepower in this time is about power, not speed. I don't think the Tacoma would beat the Celica in a race, even though it technically has more horsepower if you go to the numbers there, right? Yeah, they're selling what this thing can do. V6 four-wheel drive, locking rear differential. This is a truck made for, maybe you're not going to drive your truck through a canyon like this, but you could, they're saying. And if it could do that, what else can it do for you? How else can you score your day if you don't have a truck like this, basically, right? Yeah, interesting. I didn't talk about colors, but yeah, I mean, the yellow pops nicely against the greens and the browns of this natural canyon. No other colors other than like the red tail light at the back here. Even the silver just kind of blends in. It's almost like the truck wants to blend in a little bit, as opposed to, say, the Matrix, which popped against the background. This one kind of blends in. You definitely see it because it's up front, but it sort of is part of the natural environment in a way, right? Okay, and then finally, at the bottom, we have yet another strip of 4. We get now a mountain bike or a dirt bike flying over the camera, over the Get the Feeling. We get an untouched canyon. We have someone kind of burning out on an ATV four-wheeler. And then we have yet another road forever, but an off-road, right? A canyon road, a mountain road that has never been, again, touched, except for now you and your truck. So who's this? Right? This is a different, these guys were outdoors, but this is a different kind of outdoors. It's interesting, because, again, these are sold by the same company. This car is all about, we're going to save the planet. What's smog? I don't even know what smog is. You know what smog is? Smog's the thing that comes out of the back of this. This is the same thing. This is save the planet. This is crush the planet, right? But notice they're both Toyotas. and they don't care. They're fine with that. As long as you buy their vehicle, they're happy to be hypocritical. They don't. It doesn't bother them. I don't think, right? Yeah, score your day by doing this. And these are kinds of people who they go outdoors, but they go a different kind of outdoors. They make their own paths. They're trailblazers, right? There's no roadblock that can stop them. They can do whatever they want, right? All four of these ads, you can tell just by how they look, were made by the same company. Obviously Toyota, but whatever ad agency put them together for them, very clearly did all of them. And yet, if you wanted to buy any of these four vehicles, you would go to the same place, right? The Toyota dealership. It's not like they have the Tacoma dealership and then they have the Prius dealership. It's all the same spot. And yet, that's not how they sell this, right? They're selling them to totally different people, beckoning them all to still come to the same place and buy, right? And that's how campaigns work sometimes. So here's an example of a company that's got totally different demographics, even though they're technically asking them to come to the same place and buy, right? And so they're paying attention to them. All right, that's Ad Boot Camp. That's it for you guys for this one. This is the kind of stuff, this is how detailed I'd like you guys to be. I could have been even more detailed, to be honest. I just wanted to get through all of these, but I want you guys to get microscopic. Get in there on your ads. Look at all the pixels. Look at all the tiny little things that you can see in your ads. Get up close. Get up personal and see what your ad is doing and see what kind of tricks they're throwing at you. And then start thinking again about the answer to that question. How does this help sell? And remember, you can't get it wrong. You just have to come out and say it. Here's how I think these ads are working. Okay. Good luck, and we'll start working with the ads pretty soon. And I will also, next video, be showing you guys some sample essays so you can see how this can kind of start coming together and becoming an essay itself. We'll look at a pair of sample essays for this next one, and that'll be, I think, the next video. Keep going, guys. Thanks. Bye.